Hello everyone. Thank you for joining this third session. If you made it this far, um, thank you for hanging in there. At this at this at this moment, we've actually kind of covered quite a bit of ground. So I'm going to do a recap real quick. On the first part of the sessions, the first or session part one, we configured the interconnect between all the devices. And then in the second session, we configured basic firewall configuration so that the inside network can reach to the WAN. So at this point, we're ready to look at creating a VPN tunnel between two firewalls. I went ahead and pre-configured the branch with the VPN configuration, and this way we can just focus on the headquarters. And the configuration we're going to apply on the HQ firewall is basically going to be the exact same configuration that we applied in the branch, but with a few adjustments. And so the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to have to configure a few objects, and also we're going to have to enable IKE on the outside interface. So when it comes to VPN tunnels, there are two phases. There's phase one and then there's phase two. And there's quite a bit of configuration that needs to be done. So what I've done is I've created a few notes so that we can walk through them and go through each one of these steps. So these commands are a little bit lengthy, so I will do my best to explain each one of these commands to everyone. So right now, if we were to go to the branch switch here and try to ping the loopback IP address in the headquarters here, there would be no connectivity because there is no VPN tunnel. And the goal is to have our private networks talk to each other through a public WAN, or through in this case, this represents the internet. And so in order to do that, we have to create a LAN-to-LAN tunnel. So we will configure the headquarters. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to enable IKE on the outside interface. This is basically letting the firewall, enabling IKE on the firewall itself. And in our scenario, we're going to focus on IKE version 2. We also need to create an IKE policy, and we'll just create policy number 1. The policy is basically for phase 1. And in phase 1 is basically where the firewalls create the actual tunnel. In phase 2 is where they negotiate the traffic that's going to go through the tunnel. So in this case, we're saying for phase 1, I want you to use the encryption AES. We also want to use integrity SHA-1. And then the lifetime seconds is 28,800. Well, these are parameters that both firewalls will need to have. They will need to match on both sides of the firewall in order for this tunnel to get established. This is also the transport set, or we call it set 1. And this is basically now with phase 2, basically saying, specifying what type of encryption we want to use for the traffic that goes through the tunnel. And so we're going to use AES and SHA-1 as well. When setting up VPN tunnels, you have to configure a crypto map. And the crypto map is basically a way is how the firewall knows what the peer address is going to be, and you're basically saying this is the group of settings that I want to use for this tunnel, and we also are specifying a ACL. So it says here match address lab dash LAN to LAN. This is actually an ACL that I have configured here, and this ACL is going to say permit our HQ nets to talk to the branch nets. And so our HQ nets is up here. So the private network in the headquarter is 172.16.1.1, and the private network in the branch is 172.16.2.0. So these are the two networks that we want to allow through the VPN tunnel. And so we're just going to go ahead and create these objects. And we're also going to create a name that identifies the IP address of the branch. So this is the outside IP address of the branch firewall. And then we can create this ACL that basically identifies which subnets we're going to permit to talk through the tunnel. Now we can go ahead and configure our crypto map. And we can also apply this crypto map to the outside interface. Now that we have phase 1 and phase 2 configured, what we want to do is we want to configure our tunnel. So to do so, we're going to create a group policy. This group policy is going to be used within the tunnel configuration. Okay. I received this message here because group 1 was already in the firewall. Now we're going to create our tunnel. This IP address here is going to be the IP address, the IP address of the branch firewall, but it's going to be the outside IP address of the branch firewall. So we will apply our tunnel configuration. We also will configure our IPsec attributes, and this is where we would configure our pre-shared key. So VPN tunnels require pre-shared keys in order to establish. So we're going to use a pre-shared key for authentication of the tunnel. And the last thing we need to do is we need to add a NAT statement. This NAT statement here is going to allow our headquarter subnets to talk to our branch subnets without being natted, basically without being translated. So we want 172.16.1 to talk to 172.16.2 without being translated. So this is the last thing we have to do in order to allow traffic through the firewall, through the tunnel without being natted. So now that we've applied our VPN configuration, now we can go to our remote branch and ping our headquarters private address, and it was successful. What we can do now is we can go to the HQ firewall and we can verify that we have a VPN tunnel using IKE version 2. It's up and is active. I hope this training session was helpful. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. Thank you for watching.